Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a very fun team centered around Life Orb Mewtwo as well as Gigantamax Kingler. This was sent in to me by a player called Paulo, and it just has a lot of cool Pokemon, right? Like Life Orb Mewtwo, Kingler. These are sets that we don't really use very often in Series 12, and so as you know, on Road to Ranked, I always like to mix it up. I love featuring the very serious meta teams because those are the best teams to learn how to get good in the game quickly. But teams like these are always just really fun because you feature unorthodox Pokemon and unorthodox sets. So as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. So first of all, what really drew me to this team is the fact that it has Trick Room Mewtwo. One of my all-time favorite VGC teams is from VGC 2010, where Huiha used Trick Room on Mewtwo at the World Championships in 2010. He got top 8 of the World Championships that year, and honestly had the potential to go further, but he got eliminated by getting double crit on turn 1 of Game 2, unfortunately, to just lose the game immediately. I think it was from a Kyogre Water Spout. But one thing that was so cool about Hui's team was that he used Trick Room on Mewtwo, and Mewtwo already wasn't very common in that format, and no one expected Trick Room on that, right? And so this team is similar, where this is very much oriented for best of one play, where you can catch your opponent off guard with Trick Room. People normally look at this team and think, okay, you're probably pretty speedy between Mewtwo and Kyogre, maybe Kyogre's Choice Guard, for example, but suddenly you throw in Trick Room and your opponents just completely get thrown off by surprise, right? And so with the Trick Room, one lead, you can go with this Mewtwo Indeedee and just follow me into Trick Room, catch your opponents off guard. Kingler here is going to be your other main means of speed control. So you're either going to aim to ideally set up Trick Room with Mewtwo or Gigantamax Kingler and then lower your opponent's speed via your G-Max attack, right? And so with Kingler, you can go with something like Indeedee Kingler lead with Kyogre and Mewtwo in the back. And then Regieleki and Zoroark are both really interesting options here. I mean, Zoroark, I think, can be really valuable thanks to Illusion and baiting your opponent into attacking something that, isn't actually what they think it is. And then you can actually soak up an attack and either break opposing focus ashes with U-turn or just get some consistent damage off with your attacks. Regieleki is one of those Pokemon that I think can be really valuable but needs to be well protected. So this is really good when your opponent doesn't have any fairy types, for example, and you get the right means of speed control. Or for example, early Trick Room with Mewtwo, you bring out Regieleki and then just Dragon Energy everything. So yeah. It's important to note here that there really aren't too many protects on the team, right? There's only 2 on Kyogre and Regieleki, and the team is honestly pretty frail as well. So you do have to be very careful. It's all about figuring out how do I ensure that I knock out my opponent before they can even really get damage off against me. And so positioning is going to be really important. And then I think it's pretty hard to win unless you hyper focus on which means of speed control you want to go for and really making sure that you can outspeed your opponent before they can move. So yeah. Mewtwo in Series 12, unfortunately, is just not a very consistent Pokemon because it is relatively frail. It can do a lot of damage, but yeah, its typing is just not exactly the best by being pure Psychic. There are a lot of Darks, obviously, in the format. And then Unnerve is kind of a cool ability, right? It can be really valuable, but the question then is what mileage do you really get out of it? And the Unnerve can come in handy against Charity Berry on Charizard, for example, but overall it's not that helpful for Mewtwo, honestly. It's an okay ability, but I think Mewtwo really just deserves a buff. And so that's question of the day. How would you buff Mewtwo? I've seen one really interesting suggestion previously, which is giving it a Protean ability, right? So or Libero, allowing it to change its typing, right, as you go for attacks. I think that would be really cool and actually makes so much sense for Mewtwo. But curious on your thoughts down in the comment section below. So yeah, I think this team definitely is going to be a little bit harder to use, and generally Mewtwo, unfortunately, is just not as strong. But as always, you can win with any Pokemon in any team in VGC. You just have to play towards the team's strengths and figure out exactly what your path to victory is, as always, right? And so, as I always say in Pokemon, you really can win with anything. It's just sometimes your work is going to be a little bit more difficult. You either have to make more predictions or take more aggressive plays, for example. But I'm really excited to try this team out, and yeah, I mean, Mewtwo is just Mewtwo. So let's get started. All right. No way, it's Lugia. Oh wow. Okay, definitely did not expect to fight against one of those here. Grimmsnarl is kind of a huge pain with Light Screen. Venusaur is also kind of a pain. With Lugia, you can self Sucker Punch into Policy. You can self Volt Switch into Policy. Venusaur here angling to set up a Trick Room is actually really interesting to me, in my opinion. Sorry, did I say Venusaur? Mewtwo. Can I do anything funky with the Zoroark lead here is my question. I mean, Night Days is pretty valuable. I don't think Kingler is it here because of Venu as well as the Regieleki. Honestly, want to set up Trick Room here, so I'm thinking we go Mewtwo, Indeedee lead, Kyogre, Regidrago in the back. I just don't know how fast they are, right? Because like maybe like Groudon outspeeding Kyogre under Trick Room is pretty likely here. But if they go the faster route, I don't think this is a terrible direction to take. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, the main scary thing here is I feel like we have to be a little bit more proactive on turn 1 in regards to speed, and that makes things tougher because it means I have to spend a turn getting speed control, whereas my opponent can just outspeed me. So that makes things a little bit trickier. Let's see. Regieleki and Lugia. Okay, works for me. Could just be Electro Web. Could just Volt Switch, but you would expect, you know, to follow me here most likely. Like, I really want a Trick Room here, honestly, especially if it's not Grim out right now. I think Regieleki pivoting out into a Dark type makes sense. Because the idea is Kyogre and Drago under Trick Room here looks kind of sweet, right? Okay, let's go for it. Let's see how this plays out. I'll go for Follow Me Trick Room. They are going to Dynamax. Fine by me. I don't think a Max actually is that valuable for them right now, because Lugia's damage output is kind of underwhelming without Policy, but the team we're using is relatively frail, so have to keep that in mind. Best case is they like Volt Switch, go into Groudon, give Groudon a speed boost, and then we get Trick Room up. Okay, they go for the Protect route, that also works. I'm expecting Airstream this turn, but we'll see. Yep. That works okay. The question then is, who do they have in the back? I don't know. Like, I could see them... I just feel like a Dark type in the back feels so likely right now, right? And also, like, Regieleki pivoting out into the Dark type next turn feels like the most obvious play for them to make. My way to respond to that is maybe switching Mewtwo out, actually. I don't know. This turn, though, I think I'm down to just go for the Psy Strike here and follow me. We'll see if they have the Incin or Grim in the back and whether or not they hard switch to it. Yep, there's the switch. Venusaur coming in makes me think they just don't have a Dark here, which means Mewtwo goes crazy. Like, we're actually just had the potential to one-shot everything. Okay. Well, there's Psy Strike. Boom. No Sash. Goodbye. Okay. They have to not have a Dark type, right? Otherwise, because like Groudon being the last one makes the most sense, obviously. Max Quake is fine. We're basically targeting around Lugia right now. 111 down to 65. Not that much. The fact that there's no Dark type right now is amazing for Mewtwo, because that's Mewtwo's worst nightmare in this matchup. But it makes sense. Like, you don't really want to bring Incin into this matchup, given that I have Kyogre and Kingler, and then the other one would be Grimmsnarl. And Grimmsnarl works if you're leading it, but otherwise it's questionable, I would argue. I'm honestly down to just Dynamax Mewtwo right now, I think. Max Mindstorm to just try to one-shot Groudon. And just Helping Hand. Yeah, because if Groudon faints, then the end game is Mewtwo against Lugia, which is faster, Regieleki, and then we've got Kyogre plus Drago in the back. And if I had Protect, I'd probably consider Protecting instead and then playing towards like a Dynamax Kyogre in the end game. But I think here, let's just max Mewtwo, honestly. Because what's the worst that they can do? I guess is Protect Groudon, maybe get a Quake off for a special defense boost, but I don't even think that's that scary right now. Ah, they bulk up. That's actually really cool, but unfortunately for them, I think they're going to get punished. You should one-shot, right? Let's see. Let's go, Mewtwo. You're not an easy Pokemon to use, but the fact that we have gotten this far makes me so unbelievably happy. Quake onto Mewtwo. Yeah, this is a problem with Lugia. It is just so underwhelming damage-wise. And that's not to say it's useless, right? Like, you could still get value out of boosting your defense or special defense, and that's... The bulk of Groudon there made a lot of sense, where it's kind of like a last-ditched effort to try to, like, get Groudon to +1 attack, defense, and special defense immediately. But by not giving them that opportunity... Like, what was the game changer here is the fact they had Venusaur rather than Incin in the back. Because if Incin comes out, then I'm just kind of walled with Mewtwo, unfortunately, and I can't do too much. But now we're in a very comfortable position to just win. So, honestly, I'm down to just Mindstorm Regieleki here and Expanding Force. Like, I've got Kyogre and Drago ready to come out against Lugia. So, yeah, Regieleki goes for the obvious Protect, but that's still fine, because, like, I don't care about Lugia right now. You're just not really doing that much to me. And so, like, you know, Max Mindstorm here is guaranteed damage through the Protect. We chip away at Lugia a little bit, and I've still got Kyogre and Drago ready to come out and just, you know, finish off the game. Now, you can see one of the downsides is I'm relying very heavily on special damage right now, given that the majority of attackers on this team are special attackers. Okay, they're going for the freeze win con, which makes sense, but double miss, unfortunately. Another Mindstorm KOs Regieleki through Protect, so we're just going to go for that. Honestly, helping... the reason I didn't Helping Hand is because we expect Focus Sash last turn, right? Healing Wish is cool just to grant me a free switch in immediately. I don't think I really need to go for it, though. Yeah, because we can get another Trick Room now, so let's just Max Mindstorm and follow me. This, by the way, is... I don't know if it's the exact team, the exact Lugia team from Regionals, but John Hu played on stream on round 3 with Lugia, and it was really cool. But in a battle of Gen 1 versus Gen 2 Restricteds in Mewtwo's first game, it comes out and absolutely smashes it. And it's because, you know, the surprise Trick Room plus my opponent not having Dark types. So, what a way to get things started. But, you know, it's important to note here, my opponent just has Incin and brings Incin in over Venu. I feel like my chances of winning the game are substantially slimmer, but I think from their perspective, you never expect Trick Room from Mewtwo, so the idea is, oh, I'm just going to outspeed you and outpace you with Groudon, Venu, Regieleki, and Lugia. What are you really going to do against me? Well, the answer is get a surprise Trick Room up and really go from there. So, yeah. I'm glad we even got to Dynamax the Mewtwo, get the one-shot onto Groudon, get the one-shot onto Venu. It was just so satisfying. So, what a fun way to kick things off here. Okay, next game here. Pretty classic Zacian Kyogre. The only main thing to note here is the Porygon rather than Incineroar, which you often see on those compositions. Porygon honestly helps them more than Incin would, because Incin just doesn't really come out in this matchup other than to block Mewtwo. But that's exactly why my opponent in the previous game was probably hesitant to bring the Incin, right? Because it's like bad into Psychic Terrain, bad into Kyogre, bad into Kingler. So that's one fun thing about the way the team is composed. Okay, dual fairies, so Regidrago is probably going to be pretty weak here. I honestly want to max Kingler. Like, I kind of like the Kingler Kyogre early game with Indeedee and Mewtwo in the back. My only problem with this is that Zacian is just so good. So what's the way around Zacian? It's basically getting a speed drop onto it or getting Trick Room up with Mewtwo in the late game. One of those two. Now, I could angle for Trick Room with Mewtwo in this game, but the problem is I really don't like going up against Grimmsnarl. So the idea is if my opponent leads Grimmsnarl, I can just pressure it for a knockout immediately with G-Max Crabhammer as well as Water Spout. Now, Rillaboom and Zapdos are obviously really good against Kingler and Kyogre, but that's where I can pivot an Indeedee on the first turn, change the terrain immediately so that, you know, Grassy Glide doesn't get the priority, does less damage. And Kingler here also has Wakamberry, so I can take an electric type attack from the Zapdos. But it's important to note, like, Kingler's special defense is relatively mediocre. So, yeah. This is not the easiest matchup, but, you know, right now, this Zacian Kyogre Zapdos core is just so strong, right? Like, it just won Indianapolis Regionals, and it's been around since day one of the format. So let's see. It's going to be Kyogre and Grimmsnarl. Okay, I'm honestly okay with this, because, first of all, I can just go for G-Max Crabhammer on turn 1 onto Grimm. What do we expect in the back? right? Like, I would expect, I don't know, Kyogre to Dynamax here, and then you've got Rillaboom as well as Zacian. I feel like their Pokemon are just a lot stronger here, which is sad. Like, I can take the knockout on the Grim, but where does that get me? It just grants them a free switch in. That doesn't feel great. Gets the speed drop on a Kyogre, though, and if you max it, that's valuable for me. I'm just going for Thunder and our G-Max attack here. I don't know if that's the best play, but I'm down. Okay. Kingler maxes. I mean, there's so much to watch out for here. The main thing that's annoying, like, ideally, the thing is, it would be great if they set up only one of their screens, but light screen is just so valuable because I'm relying on so much. Oh, actually, maybe not that much special damage. I mean, Mewtwo does have special damage, but... Okay, no max and they just light screen. I actually think that's one of the better outcomes we could have dealt with, because I think we just one-shot Grim here. Okay, so we just got a free Thunder off in a Kyogre. Let's see if it's Assault Vested. Looks like AV to me. Get the Para, which is really nice, though. The fact that we outspeed and get a Para immediately is a great start. And we just get Foam Burst off here. If you get full Parrot, I mean, it's a disaster for my opponent, right? Because it's, like, the freest turn one. The thing is, even with them, they still have, like, what, Rillaboom, Zacian in the back, and that's still such a nightmare to deal with, but I'll take that turn one. Surprised to not see a max. And they get full Parrot, unfortunately, so very lucky turn there. You would think Kyogre was going for a Thunder onto either of my Pokemon. Like I said, I have the Wakamberry to take it on Kingler, but that makes things even easier for us. So now you can bring out Rillaboom. If Rillaboom comes out, my solution is then to pivot out into Indeedee, I think. That's Rillaboom coming out, yep. Okay. Because, yeah, the reality is that, like, the matchup is just more in my opponent's favor, because, like, the Pokemon we're using are just, honestly, a little bit subpar. Defensively. Okay, so I'm honestly down to Foam Burst into Rillaboom right now, because I actually think it might be a 2-hit KO, and then pivot out into Indeedee here as well. That gives us terrain control. And then I'll keep dropping my opponent's speed. Then the next turn I can go for either just Expanding Force or Helping Hand Foam Burst as an opportunity. Rillaboom maxing here is certainly a possibility as well, right? But if that happens and you KO Kingler, then I bring out Mewtwo and I can just go for Life Orb Psystrike in terrain, which is pretty killer. Kyogre maxing here feels like the slightly safer bet, to which then you can max Lightning, but then that would be interesting, because then you would be getting rid of your own terrain. But I expect one of these two to max this turn, I think, because you kind of have to. Okay, Kyogre pivots out. Fine by me, honestly. They didn't bring Zacian! What? Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, I prefer that, but now it's like, do I just get one-shot by G-Max Rillaboom? Could be the case. Oh! You're not G-Max. You're regular Rillaboom. Which will allow you to change the terrain. Huh. I am faster, but the thing is, now I obviously have to worry about next turn just a Trick Room going up now for my opponent. That was a nice play. Okay. So they're gonna go for Max Overgrowth now. Fascinating. Into the Kingler slot, yep. The fact they changed the terrain here is actually very bad news for me. Like, I would rather have them be Gigantamax here, because having Psychic Terrain up is so important for me here. So, okay, now what? Man, the decision to bring Porygon over Zacian is going to be huge for my opponent here, because they can just Trick Room now and go for another Max Overgrowth. And this is such an interesting game, because it's like, if they were Gigantamax Rillaboom, they'd actually be in more trouble right now. Because you wouldn't change the terrain, and that allows Mewtwo to do more damage as well. Like, I can go for a Helping Hand and Foam Burst here on a Porygon, but I don't think that KOs. But I'm still down to try it out. The other thing to consider is I can reverse Trick Room with Mewtwo. Okay. And if this somehow one-shots, like if it gets a crit, then yeah, I'd say we probably win, but I don't think this is KOing. You were so close, though! What? That wasn't even a crit. Oh. Because if we get that knockout, I think we win, to be honest. They go for Knuckle, though. Interesting. Okay. On to Indeedee. Oh, that was so close. It literally has like 1 HP. I actually thought Porygon would take that a little bit better. And Trick Room, right? Dang. Okay. Because if we get that knockout, then like I have another turn where Rillaboom's not max. I could go for a Helping Hand plus attack onto the Kyogre slot, and then we have Late Game Mewtwo plus Kyogre. Yeah, Late Game Mewtwo plus Kyogre. The problem is now they've set up Trick Room, right? Ah, so sad. It's the last turn of their max on Rillaboom. Like I almost feel like I need to switch Indeedee out here to try to conserve terrain. Otherwise, it's just follow me and sacrifice it, and then Grassy Glide KOs my whole dang team. Okay. So, let's Crab Hammer on a Porygon. Switch Indeedee out. I mean, Sting's going into either of these. Going to Kyogre. Oh man, I think if we get the KO on Porygon, we like their win con in this late game was Trick Room. What a clutch survival. I'm so curious on the damage calc there, because I actually thought Porygon would take it a little bit better. Yes, they go for Recover. There's also the chance that they KO the Kingler slot, right, rather than the Indeedee slot. Okay. Maybe this gets us somewhere then. Does grant me a free switch in with terrain control, but now I wish I brought Mewtwo out instead of the Kyogre. I can't believe I ran into regular Max Rillaboom here as well. Like, can't stress how big of a deal that is. Oh. So bring out Indeedee now. The problem for me is that Mewtwo can't protect in this game. So stalling out Trick Room... Yeah, I should have brought Mewtwo out over Kyogre because, and like hope for them to target Kingler. Because if I had done that, then I could go for Follow Me Trick Room, reverse Trick Room, and win the game with Mewtwo plus Kyogre. So I kind of missed that as an opportunity, and I'm a little bit sad about that. Still have Light Screen up as well. Yeah, I mean... Follow Me plus Ice Beam here is what I'm going to go for, I think. But I think by bringing Kyogre out over Mewtwo, I cost myself a opportunity to win the end game. It was really close, though, so I can't be too upset. I just can't believe Porygon hung on with that little HP. Because if Trick Room doesn't go up there, then we're up 4-2, and with this against Assault Vest Kyogre, like I get another Helping Hand Crab Hammer into it. That maybe doesn't KO, but then I feel very confident in Kyogre plus Mewtwo winning the game. So I just need to deny Trick Room here. And their decision to bring Porygon over Zacian should be commended, right? Yeah, Porygon just recovers. Ice Beam freezes one out right now. Or somehow we survive Glide. Okay. Ugh, that does not do enough. No freeze, rain stops. The main problem is that there are 2 turns of Trick Room left. What do I want to do? I don't know if Porygon can actually KO Indeedee is the thing. Does it ever switch Indeedee out into Mewtwo here and protect? Hold on, I actually think that might be it. Yeah, I just really wish I brought Mewtwo out instead of Kyogre. But I was really nervous about Rillaboom just KOing it. But I guess if like... Because in my head I was like, I need Mewtwo to win the endgame over Kyogre. So it might be worth sacrificing Kyogre instead. Okay, they did have Tri-Attack. They get burned. It's fine. They do glide into Kyogre. Okay, we're still in it for now. The problem is this next turn. Last turn of Trick Room, 3 turns of Terrain, 2 turns of Light Scream. You're a +1 attack. Okay, I think my path to winning here, I'm going to switch Mewtwo out, hope to take the Glide, Ice Beam into Rillaboom, and then hope that I can KO Porygon, like, Psy Strike. There's, like, and I'm also hoping, oh, actually a double up wouldn't matter here. Yeah, this was so hard to win when Trick Room went up. They actually try into the Kyogre. Did they double up into it? That's a good play if so. I get frozen anyway. Okay. Oh, that's so frustrating. They actually did split their damage exactly how I was hoping it to. Okay, if we thaw out here. Yes! Okay, Kyogre. Oh, okay. Get Ice Beam and a Rillaboom. Oh my gosh, this is so intense. The problem is that, like, Porygon's at full HP now, but at least we put ourselves in a position. Either way, though, this is a great game, right? Like, I can't be too upset. The sad thing is it is the last turn of Light Screen, but my best bet is to just Psy Strike here and Water Spout. What a game either way, though. The max Rillaboom. Yeah, that was just crazy. Okay, we get Water Spout off. KO's the Rillaboom. Does Life Orb Psychic Terrain Psy Strike? Can I KO Porygon right now? I'm always nervous about Psy Strike missing, even though it literally can't. I don't know why. Oh! Let me get a crit! Oh, I need to do the damage calc there. I'm so curious about it afterwards, because I was thinking maybe we could just KO even without the crit. But I have no idea. But now we just win. Holy cow. I really want to know that calc, though. I'm so curious. Like, I would expect it to survive, but we definitely had some good fortune this game, right? Thunder Para. Although, interestingly enough, it's like I wouldn't care about the Thunder Para or the crit if we just managed to one-shot the Porygon when we were out against it. So I definitely want to do some damage calcs after this, but yeah, let's just Psy Strike into Kyogre here and Thunder. Wow. That's what I mean, though, right? Like, we at least found a path to victory when it felt completely doomed. Like, the fact that they were regular Rillaboom instead of max Rillaboom felt awful. And the fact that they got Light Screen up, right, and had so many turns of it also felt awful. But Mewtwo clutches it out here for us. So, I'm going to pull up that damage calc. Like, I obviously don't know how bulky the Porygon 2 is, so it's hard to say with confidence. But this is one of the strongest attacks that you really can have. And so, I just don't know the damage calc there and whether or not the crit mattered. But, yeah, let's find out. Okay, so first of all, I had definitely forgotten about the fact that Light Screen still counts towards Psy Strike. Psy Strike, you know, it counts for your opponent's defense, but it still counts as a special attack. So then the answer is obviously very simple. The crit absolutely mattered. So then in my head, I was curious, like, okay, let's say you don't have the Light Screen there, then do we have a chance of KOing? This is the Porygon 2 EV spread that just got second at regionals. And so with this spread, the answer is no. I have Timid on right now, but if you change it to Modest, or I guess Mild works too. It doesn't really move the needle that much. 57 to 68%. They were more towards like 80%ish or so. Now, let's say they have no special defense or no defense investment. It's all max special defense. Then it's 70 to 82%. So then there's a chance that we KO there if the Light Screen weren't up. But it's still, I would say, more in my opponent's favor. So yeah, it absolutely mattered. And we had a lot of good fortune in that game. This is, you know, it's always important to just like confirm whether or not you need crits or not, because if the answer is yes, I needed that to win the game, then it's like you didn't put yourself in a great position to win, right? And then so I have to ask myself, okay, what did I do wrong? Why did I need to rely on a critical hit to win? And the answer for that one was pretty simple. Trick Room managed to go up because they made the decision to bring Porygon, right? So now let's do the Gmax Kingler damage calc, right? Because we missed out on the knockout by literally what looked like 1 HP. So assuming the rain is up here with helping hand support, if you have no defense investment, it's a guaranteed KO, so obviously they had defense investment, so it really ranges, right? Like, let's say you're max HP, max defense, we never can KO there, but if you have, say, 164 defense and you're sassy, for example, then it is a damage roll here, 25% chance to one-shot. So That turn was really critical where I have no idea where we were because I didn't know the special defense or defense investment in the Porygon too. And if we knock out the Porygon there, then I think we're in a very good position to win because then Mewtwo is just left to be able to outspeed both of my opponent's Pokemon. So, you know, the game like that highlights a couple of things. I think first of all, like, you know, we're just using Pokemon that are a little bit weaker against my opponents, right? Like Kingler into a team with Rillaboom, oh, that doesn't feel great. Mewtwo is just relatively frail as well, and then Porygon 2 is really bulky, and they got Light Screen up, so all of that's not great. And as a result, you often feel like you have to work harder for your wins, right? Which is why generally, like, using stronger Pokemon can give you an advantage when you play Pokemon. It's one thing to talk about. The second thing to note is that, you know, even though, like, we needed to get lucky to win, that game actually felt doomed. So the fact that there was even a path to victory is at least like encouraging, right? It's like no matter how slim your outs are in Pokemon, if you can find them, you at least got to go for it, right? And it's like, yes, the majority of the time we actually should lose that game, but if you can steal wins here and there by finding your path to victory, that's really valuable, especially when you're playing, for example, in a tournament where you're playing best of threes for 8-9 rounds, right? That can go up to 27 games, and it's like sometimes just being able to convert one of those losses to a win because you find a way to maneuver the end game can be really valuable. But at the end of the day, undoubtedly, I got very lucky there. The thing to note is if we don't get the crit on Porygon with Mewtwo, it's still possible to win because Kyogre then can get full parried, and then we can just one-shot it with Psy Strike because Mewtwo can take an attack, right? And so that was definitely not the cleanest of games. I mean, we were so lucky to get Thunder Para into full para as well as a crit there. So we'll take it, but definitely wish it could have been a little bit cleaner there. So let's look for one final game. Third game here, and it's Kyogre, Zacian with Regieleki, Cinderace, Whimsicott, and Indeedee. Screams hyper offense here. Can I do anything with Zoroark? The Trick Room angle's, I think, the right approach here, but how do I get it up? Because if you just lead Kyogre, you just pressure with Water Spout immediately. I mean, something like Kyogre Zacian as a lead is honestly pretty terrifying. I'm just, like, we gotta think about the long term. How do we win this game? By outspeeding our opponent. How do we outspeed our opponent? Either Gmax Kingler or Mewtwo Trick Room. How do we get Gmax Kingler or Mewtwo, you know, successfully to get their attacks off? With Kingler, it'd be a Kingler Indeedee lead. With Mewtwo, it'd be Mewtwo plus something. The problem, like I mentioned, is a Kyogre lead from my opponent just pressuring with Water Spout. Regieleki, Kyogre, and Zacian Kyogre feel really likely here, so I'm gonna go the Kingler route, but it doesn't feel great because the thing is, even after our Gmax attack, like with them having Regieleki and Electro Web pressure, I still might not necessarily outspeed my opponent, but the problem with Mewtwo is that it's just way too frail here to like feel safe about setting up Trick Room early game here. A lot of Zacian Ogre teams. I mean, Zacian Ogre like has really surpassed Groudon Zacian. I don't know if it actually Groudon Zacian was ever ahead in terms of usage rates, but wow, it's Whimsicott Cinderace. Mewtwo Indeedee actually would have crushed it here, and it still can, right? Like, turn 1 is so interesting already, honestly. Because the question here is like, does do you have Max Darkness on the Cinderace? If so, then you know you can just go for Max Darkness immediately. Honestly, the play I want to make is to max Kingler, Foam Burst into Cinderace. And then switching Indeedee out into Kyogre. Basically, the one thing I have going for me right now is that my opponent has a Whimsicott out on the field, so it doesn't do very much damage. I'm just a little bit sad because Mewtwo Indeedee actually would have crushed it here, but I thought my opponent would feel pretty safe leading Kyogre plus like a Regieleki or Zacian. And I think if I just lead Mewtwo, I guess the one interesting thing I can do there is max Mewtwo on turn 1. So I didn't think about that as a possibility. But like, I don't think I win this game if I don't get good speed control. And it's either Kingler or Mewtwo, right? So I guess because this matchup was so bad, like on paper, maybe you just go for the Mewtwo lead anyway and say like, you know, if you somehow don't lead Kyogre, which ends up being the case here, I can actually punish you so heavily. Because with Mewtwo, it actually just would have been follow me Trick Room, and then just Mewtwo plus Kyogre actually kind of destroys my opponent under Trick Room, right? So it's like, I'd have to be lucky and like win the lead matchup there, but if it actually pans out, we're in an amazing shape. Whereas now, like, this just doesn't work out super well for me regardless of what they go for. But let's see if it is Max Darkness. I'm hoping that is the case. Okay, they go for Tailwind. I mean, it's fine for now. The problem is, yeah, this is what I mean, right? Even with G-Max Crabhammer, I'm still not really doing too much because they're still going to outspeed me, but that's fine. Basically, like I mentioned, what I have to use to my advantage right now is that my opponent only has... Oh my gosh, that is so much damage. My opponent only has one offensive attack route on the field, really, rather than two. Okay, it is going to be a Rain Boosted Foam Burst, but it's no longer super effective, so I wouldn't expect it to KO here. Okay, in order to win this game, I need to get Trick Room up with Mewtwo, right? So the question is, how do I do that? I need to get Trick Room up with Mewtwo, meaning I need to have Indeedee out next to it. Man, this is going to seem crazy, but like I almost want to hard switch Kingler. Hard switch Kingler out into Indeedee and then sacrifice Kyogre to get Indeedee and Mewtwo out next to each other simultaneously. Because I'm not winning this game right now if I don't get Trick Room up, in my opinion. Okay, let's go for it. I'm just sad because the Mewtwo, the Trick Room Mewtwo lead would have worked. And honestly, because like Trick Room Mewtwo is so rare, no one ever is going to cover for it. That honestly works as a strat here. Okay. But you can see the problem, right? Where it's like the lack of speed control makes things a little bit tougher. Okay, they do Energy Ball into the Indeedee slot. Do they target Kyogre here? Or do they double up onto the Kingler? Okay. This is what I mean. I can at least now maybe get Trick Room up, but the problem is, I don't have enough offense to win even under Trick Room without Kyogre anymore, right? Maybe Kingler or Mewtwo can pull something off under Trick Room. I wouldn't discount it yet. This is what I mean though, right? Like, there's at least a path that we can find here, and I'll take it. It's better than nothing. Okay. Yeah, it's gotta just be follow me right now. Into Trick Room. And then we have a... The problem is that they have Energy Ball and Whimsicott, so Kingler is not even gonna like take attacks from that super nicely. So it still doesn't look great, but at least we found a way to get Trick Room up. But feels like I'm a little too far behind, honestly. Like, I was hoping they would go, you know, something like Regieleki, Kyogre, Zacian, Kyogre, and then try when I could follow me and then go for the G-Max attack onto... Oh, Cinderace switches. That makes this very interesting. What are you bringing out? Zacian, okay. Like I said, what I'm going to use right now is my advantage that Whimsicott is offensively not great for my opponent. We've seen Tailwind, Energy Ball, Protect. Now I actually will get Trick Room up. Okay, so another turn closer. Now what? 4 turns of Trick Room. Last turn of Tailwind on their end. Down to follow me here. Two turns of Rain left. I don't want to pair them. Okay, I mean, I'm down to just follow me Flamethrower this turn, I think. The idea is I lose Indeedee, but then get a free switch into Kingler. Was it ever Expanding Force? I don't think so. It's not bad damage on his Zacian, but it could be better. They're going to Moonblast us. So it's Moonblast, Energy Ball, Tailwind, and Protect. Okay, double offense on the Whims. It's fine. And Blade. This is what I mean, though, right? If I had started the game like this, and then I had a Kyogre in the back, Kyogre just comes in, and Kyogre Water Spouts everything, while Mewtwo Side Strikes everything. And, like, you can't beat that, honestly, with Trick Room up. Tailwind peters out. Now we get Kingler in. Okay. I mean, the problem is, like, Energy Ball Whimsicott might just one-shot Kingler. They do have Ally Switch, but I don't really think that gets me very far, honestly. I guess there's the chance they're not Sash on Whimsicott and it's on Regieleki instead. But given that you're not Switcheroo, it could be Eject button, I guess. Okay, I'm going to Crab Hammer into Zacian and just Psy Strike into Whimsicott. That's the thing. Okay, so because I could have read into the Zacian Protect and doubled up onto Whims, right? That's the other possibility. And they're actually faster because Tailwind Peter's out anyway. So, yeah, I didn't actually have an out here. Yeah, I needed a KO Whimsicott before that. Because, you see, like, I actually managed to get both means of speed control off in this game, but it was awkward because, like, they counteract each other. So, if I were to replay this knowing my opponent's lead, it's just Indeedee Mewtwo every time, follow me, plus Trick Room turn 1. And then Kyogre Mewtwo, honestly, should just demolish the game from that angle. But the problem with Indeedee Mewtwo is that it's very volatile and loses very heavily to things like Regieleki Kyogre, Kyogre Zacian, for example. Even Cinderace Kyogre, because then you can max Darkness in a Water Spout. So it's a shame. Like, I didn't think they'd actually prioritize Whimsicott here, because, you know, you're already naturally faster, but they don't know the items on my side, so it makes sense for them to just guarantee that they can outpace me with Whimsicott. So, yeah. The fact that there is, like, a actual route to winning this, though, and it's just simply a lead adjustment is always a good sign. It's not like we just absolutely get crushed no matter what my opponent does, right? But had to be Mewtwo and Indeedee as the lead here. But I can't feel safe bringing that in a best of 1. But the reality is that, like, 1, no one's ever going to expect Trick Room Mewtwo, and 2, you are using Pokemon that generally are, you know, just a little bit weaker. So you often, more often than, like, with other teams, kind of have to, like, gamble a little bit in team preview or during your plays, and, you know, that's okay. That's just the nature of how certain teams operate. But if you call those gambles correctly, it can put you in absolutely huge positions, right? And so it was a really interesting set of games where, like, the first game was an absolute stomp because my opponent didn't bring a dark type. The second game, like, I got very lucky on 2 big turns, Thunder into the Kyogre, you know, para, as well as the critical hit. And then in this game, it was like a lead adjustment would be how I would fix, like, you know, the problem of just the speed control issue from the beginning of the game. So didn't really get to bring Zoroark or Regidrago, but we didn't really run into the best matchups where it's like all of our opponents, you know, had like fairies that would give me some issues. I guess Drago actually like would have been good in the first game, but we just didn't get to a position to bring it out. And then both games 2 and 3 didn't make too much sense. So yeah. Either way though, I'm glad to feature a team with Mewtwo, and Mewtwo put in so much work in both games 1 and 2, so I can't be too upset. So thank you so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and see you all next time. All right. Peace.